What's going on, YouTube fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For the day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. Trapping or hustling. To make a couple extra dollars is a common thing all over the world. An underground economy that if you are plugged into, no matter if you have a job or a legal way to get money, you will always have a way to eat and provide for your peoples. That's why a lot of people decide daily to put their freedom on the line, because the streets doesn't care about no felony conviction, work experience, transportation to make it to a job, or a resume. It's all about supply and demand. You get a product that people want or need, and it will go. In inner cities that's known for open air drug markets, it's common for even a working man to have a side hustle, even if it's just selling a little grass, because in those environments, product is usually easy to get, and just standing outside, you could catch a sale for a few dollars. Being that selling smack, coke, or fent is considered more of a danger from being targeted by the stick-up boys or the feds, a lot of people play it safe and just sell the grass, feeling like nobody is worried about a person selling a little bit of smoke. But in reality, speaking from experience, that's the #1 target for a lot of stick-up kids, because usually people who sell grass only do it on the side and are not all the way in on street politics, leaving them open game for the wolves who feel like either go all in or get out the way. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will discuss a case of a street deal that turned fatal. Back in 2019, 27-year-old Derek Lawrence Toe Williams was just like any other young man trying to navigate the streets of Baltimore, trying to stay afloat out the way, but also make some money to survive. Leaving Derek selling a little bit of grass on the side, but only to close friends and family members in small amounts. The young man had an associate, 26-year-old Marcus Haggins. The two used to be neighbors, lived on the same block, even attended the same school. So when on August 4th, 2019, that morning, Derek's phone rung, he didn't think too much about it. After realizing it was Marcus, it was a quick conversation. Marcus asking him, like, "Yo, you good? I need a zip or an ounce." Derek replied, "Yeah, I'm by the gas station in Randallstown, Baltimore County." Marcus would shoot a text about 11 a.m. "On my way." Unknown to Derek, his homie had another man with him who he didn't know at all, 21-year-old Corey Fennell. By this time, Marcus called again, and Derek told him he was by his house, located on Shenton Road in Randallstown. As Marcus' car pulled up, Derek approached the passenger side to see a man hop out, mask on his face with a blick in his hand. Caught off guard, Derek took a step forward before shots went off. The shooter hopped back in the whip and it drove off. Neighbors in the area called Baltimore County Police, who responded to the location to find a man suffering from gunshot wounds to the chest and back. He was quickly rushed to a local hospital, but unfortunately would not survive his injuries. He was later identified as 27-year-old Derek Williams. Back at the scene was Derek's people, including his mother, as the shooting happened just a few houses down from where he lived. Police located 2 bags on the sidewalk with about 16 grams apiece worth of grass, and Derek had about $48.47 in his pockets. His mother took his cell phone to his best friend's house for him to have. After being questioned about Derek's hustling and being distraught after hearing he didn't survive, she told police he wasn't no big-time drug dealer. He sold grass on the side to friends and family. Detectives noticed homes in the area with surveillance and also realized Derek was on a phone call right before walking up to the car when he was shot. That night, his mother called the last number he contacted and a few other friends to let him know the news, which included Marcus. He stated He ain't know Derek was hit. He had no information about the situation, and he quickly hung up. As detectives got Derek's phone records, they saw Marcus call him twice that morning. Once around about 10:45 a.m., then at 11:17 a.m. Derek was shot minutes later. As footage came back, it showed a gold Chevy Suburban pause on South Hall Road. Right before pulling up to the block, Derek was found on. The car had Virginia tags, rims, and stickers on it, making it stand out. While reviewing footage, they realized the situation was all caught on camera. Derek had the phone to his ear. He approached the Suburban when a man hopped out with a mask on. Seconds later, he started shooting. As police ran the tags, the vehicle came registered back to Marcus. Also, the phone number that called Derek's phone twice that morning came back to him as well. The detectives tried calling the number, but it had been disconnected. On August 5th, a day after the situation, police went to a home located on the Suburban's registration and saw Marcus come out. They followed him to his aunt and uncle's house in Baltimore City. Not knowing he was being followed, he parked the whip behind the fence and went in. Police towed the whip, searching it, finding fingerprints of Marcus and another man, later known to be Corey. They also got evidence from Derek's phone records that one of the calls he received that morning was Marcus calling him from Corey's phone. On August 6th, at about 1:30 p.m., police caught Marcus and Corey together, walking in a parking lot. Corey had Marcus' cell phone in his pocket. He tried to pass it off to a stranger walking by, but it was too late. They both were taken into custody. Detectives searched the phone records to see text messages between Corey and Marcus plotting from 8 o'clock that morning on August 4th of robbing trappers. They tried to contact one man who didn't respond before Corey told Marcus, like, hit your boy for a zip. Unfortunately, Derek answered the call. The two were interviewed in separate rooms, with Corey instantly stating, I did it. That man didn't have nothing to do with it, and referring to Marcus, stating, I had the blick, I wanted to rob Derek, I'm not sorry for what I did, he shouldn't have reached for the gun. Telling detectives, let that man know I took my charge. But admitting they were in Marcus' car was a mistake, because they both were charged with first-degree hit, robbery, and handgun violations. As the case made its way to trial, Corey's lawyers tried to get his statement thrown out, admitting guilt. As Marcus' attorneys argued, he didn't know Corey was going to shoot, and Derek was his homie. But evidence showed the whip stopped, the men started talking. Footage also showed Corey getting ready a few blocks away as Marcus called Derek, and they pulled up. Seconds later, the shooting happened. Prosecutors argued both men set this up, and that day they was on a robbing spree, robbing anybody who would pick up the phone. With phone records, a confession, and surveillance, game was over. Both men were eventually found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Rest in peace to Derek. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to his family. I'm gonna leave the moral of the story on this one up to y'all. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Remember, definitely be respectful. Alright, fam, y'all heard the situation. Y'all heard the story. Crazy situation, man. Rest in peace to that young man. But yeah, leave it in the comments. Like I said, definitely be respectful. I send my prayers and condolences to his family. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. This your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out.
What's up, fam? It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another video. In this episode of the Baltimore Way, I'll be talking about the tragic slaying of Fresca Yerby, a mother who brutally lost her life after refusing to be in a relationship with a man who couldn't take no for an answer. But before we get into this video, welcome if you're new here to our channel. Please feel free to subscribe, click that notification bell to get notified every time we upload. If you're rocking with the content, smash that like button. Share this video with everyone you know. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. All right, let's jump right into it. Monday, July 13th, 2020, East Baltimore, Maryland. 35-year-old Fresca Yerby was at her home she shared with her sister and 11-year-old son on Comet Street in the Pleasant View Gardens community. That day was more than likely pretty normal. Fresca's son, who we'll call Jay, was home on summer vacation, spending time upstairs in his room. All of a sudden, Jay heard his mother screaming, "No, no, no," and loud noises coming from the kitchen. When he went downstairs to see what was going on, he saw the most horrific sight. His mom was lying on the kitchen floor, bleeding, badly injured, and a man he called Mike was standing over her with a knife in his hand. Jay yelled at Mike to stop hurting his mom. The man stopped and said, "Okay." Then he dropped the weapon. Mike then left the home shirtless through the back door. Jay ran out the front door and started yelling that his mother had just been shot by Mike. As Jay was yelling for help, he watched as Mike walked southbound on North Asquith Street toward East Fayette Street. Jay shouted and pointed out to neighbors that the man walking with no shirt was the same man that had hurt his mother. After Jay told neighbors what Mike had done, he called 911 himself. He told the 911 dispatcher his mother had just been slain. Baltimore police arrived at the home in the 1100 block of Comet Street at 12:32 p.m. Officers made contact with Jay before going into the home. Jay told officers his mother was in the kitchen and that Mike hurt her. An officer entered the home and walked into the kitchen and found Fresca lying on her back, suffering from injuries in multiple locations of her body. The officer also noticed multiple knives and broken knives next to Fresca's body. She was pronounced expired at the scene. Shortly after, Fresca's son was taken to a facility for children for a forensic interview. Jay told investigators what he witnessed Mike do to his mother. Police were able to identify Mike as 63-year-old Michael Biscotti. Investigators showed Jay a picture of Michael and asked if that's who hurt his mom. He replied, "Yes." Michael Biscotti was wanted on a warrant for first-degree murder in the slaying of Fresca Yerby. Police asked the public for help in locating him. They released a photo of a vehicle he may have been driving, a blue-green Chevrolet van with Maryland tags. According to what Fresca's best friend told news outlets, Michael Biscotti knew Fresca and had been stalking her. The best friend believed that Michael grew angry when Fresca refused to date him. She elaborated that Michael wanted a relationship from Fresca, but she didn't want one. During my research, I found a LinkedIn profile for Michael Biscotti, and it stated that he was a facility janitor at a company in Baltimore, Maryland. A Twitter thread I ran across pertaining to this case alluded to the idea that Fresca and Michael may have worked together, and that's how they knew each other. The thread also made reference to the types of harassment Fresca may have endured from Michael. He reportedly threatened her on multiple occasions. The thread said Fresca reported it to HR, but nothing was done. He allegedly received what some would call a slap on the wrist. Fresca supposedly found out months later that Michael, an ex-con, had committed murder before, reportedly slashing his girlfriend till she was no longer alive. Michael allegedly followed Fresca to the restroom and cornered her in uncomfortable situations. Fresca was reportedly scared after allegedly hearing Michael talk about how he would end people's lives. He also allegedly pulled a gun on Fresca when she would threaten him to back off. The thread included a link to an article about Fresca's slaying, but there was nothing to verify if the allegations of harassment at the workplace actually happened. But I do believe it ties in and could be true, since Fresca's best friend said that Michael was stalking her. After 4 days on the run, Michael Biscotti was arrested. Video posted to social media showed a man identified as Michael seated on the ground wearing a mask with handcuffs behind his back somewhere along the inner harbor. Police confirmed that the video did indeed depict Michael Biscotti's arrest. He was held without bail, and his preliminary hearing was scheduled for September 1st, 2020. He was charged with first-degree hit, firearm use in a felony violent crime, firearm possession with a felony conviction, and use of a weapon with the intent to injure. Family and friends of Fresca missed her very much. They couldn't help but to think about her son and what he had to endure. All who knew Fresca hoped justice would be served. The case went to trial on December 2nd, 2021. In court, the defense told jurors during the opening statement that everything the prosecution presented was a colorful story. Prosecutors claimed that Michael went into Fresca's home as a friend. Prosecutors told the jury that Fresca was cut 16 times with a knife lodged in her side. She also had 3 gunshot wounds to the head, arm, and side. The state explained that Michael walked out of Fresca's house with blood on his shirt. The state also presented surveillance footage where Michael is seen throwing his stained shirt behind a dumpster. He then supposedly called a medic and told them, "I had to do it." A crime lab technician verified photo evidence along with multiple knives at the crime scene. After the jury deliberated, Michael Biscotti was found guilty on 3 out of 4 charges, including first-degree murder. He was subsequently sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In addition, he also received a 20-year sentence with the first 5 ineligible for parole to run consecutively. Then another 3 years to serve concurrently. Hopefully, with Michael Biscotti's conviction and sentence, Fresca's family and friends got closure to the terrible tragedy. May Fresca Yerby continue to rest in peace. My thoughts and prayers are with her family and loved ones, especially her son. I pray for his strength to navigate through life after what he experienced. This is such a sad story. Fresca lost her life to a very disturbed man who couldn't handle rejection. Fresca probably did her best to create boundaries and distance between her and Michael, but he was obsessed, it seemed like. It's a scary thing to have someone stalking you, especially if it's someone you're working with. You cannot put anything past anyone these days. You don't want to be an unfriendly person, but it's hard to differentiate how a person may take your kindness. Michael Biscotti clearly had deep-rooted issues with rejection to the point he took a life, possibly not once, but twice. Fam, tell me your thoughts on this in the comments below. Again, my condolences to Fresca's loved ones. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of The Baltimore Way. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and I'm out.
What's going on, YouTube? YouTube, fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Little disclaimer before I start. The situation took place in Pennsylvania, but the two men are from Baltimore, so y'all don't be all geographical with me. But yeah, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story. For the day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. Family. Most of us are taught from very young ages, all you got is your family. You're supposed to love them, protect them, and be there for them no matter what. As most get older, you might become a little bit closer to some more than others. But it's still a mutual respect and understanding y'all are related. Certain situations or events can change the dynamics of that family bond, whether it's internal issues or beef. Loved ones fight every day, and usually it gets squashed before it gets to a certain level. Some individuals stick by their blood regardless of what happens. They can argue, throw hands. I have even seen situations blitz came out, but it usually calms down. They make up and keep their relationship going. But some people are not that forgiving. You have certain family members that really don't vibe with their peoples. Whether it's been like that for years, a particular situation happens. Either way, they are comfortable with rocking along, cutting their close loved ones off for whatever their reasons are. But usually, most hold on to their peoples tight and love them unconditionally. That blind loyalty of feeling like cuz, unc, or sis, I know I don't have to second guess their feelings for me. And that can lead to a false sense of security when whole time, them feelings are one-sided. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will discuss a case of a man's trip out of town to kick it with his cousin that turned fatal. Back in 2021, 37-year-old Jeremiah Beeman had been through a lot. Losing his mother as a hopper, years later in his 20s, his father and brother passed away as well, leaving his immediate gone, and Jeremiah left with extended family, such as cousins. But that didn't stop him from being a family man. He worked hard and over time had 2 daughters of his own. In his spare time, he loved spending time with his peoples. They described him as a comedian, making others laugh, caring, even a teacher, showing younger relatives how to write in cursive or helping them with their school assignments. So when Jeremiah decided to plan a trip to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania with another family member, it was nothing out the ordinary. The person he was going with was a cousin, 41-year-old Jerome Casey. The two were close in age and they were stated to hang out often, both being from Baltimore. Allegedly, Jerome had ties to Pennsylvania. As they got to the city on November 16, 2021, they were hanging out, having a good time, and linked up with one of Jerome's associates in town. Everything seemed normal, as the three were having fun and just everyday routine. But a little after 11:30 p.m., police were called to shots fired near City Alley. They responded to the location of Evergreen and Sortara Street to find a black male suffering from multiple gunshots. He was unfortunately pronounced gone on the scene and later identified as 37-year-old Jeremiah Beeman. Detectives started searching the crime scene for evidence, finding 9mm shell casings, but that was about it, until they noticed cameras from local homes near the intersection of the 2 streets. After getting the footage, it allegedly showed 3 men walking together. Moments later, Jeremiah could be seen falling to the ground, with a shooter standing over him, letting off shots. 2 men took off running to a vehicle parked nearby and fleeing the scene. Detectives was trying to piece together the events after realizing Jeremiah was from Baltimore and traveled up with his cousin. After notifying family members, they were in shock of how Jeremiah was found in a cold alley out of town. They were all wondering where Jerome was at. Family informed police that Jeremiah seemed good and happy. Nothing was strange or out of the ordinary. But as the footage was shown, it became a shock to everyone. Detectives identified the shooter as the cousin Jerome, who was nowhere to be found at the time. Tracking down the vehicle in the footage, it led them to a woman's home from Harrisburg who owned the whip. They got a warrant to search the car, finding a 9mm clip, bullets that matched the crime scene. The woman claimed to have no knowledge of a shooting and was questioned but never charged. Next, police went to visit the other man that ran with Jerome after the shooting. He stated he thought everything was good and didn't know why the shooting occurred. He was also questioned but also never charged. Police focused all their attention on Jerome at this time, as Jeremiah's body was released to relatives back in Baltimore. Some spoke out of how a family member can hit their own blood. They refused to show face because Jerome was still on the run. They referred to Jeremiah as a good dude and had to explain to his now 2 teenage daughters the situation. Detectives got a tip that Jerome and another man from Harrisburg that was on probation at the time headed to Texas, sending a bolo down there. Then almost 2 months later, on January 4th, a fugitive task force arrested Jerome, charging him with first-degree hit of his own cousin. He was extradited back to Pennsylvania. No motive came up in the case, and as of now, it hasn't made the trial. Jerome is innocent until proven otherwise. Rest in peace to Jeremiah. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to his family, especially his daughters. This is a crazy situation on how a trip with fam ends in a man losing his life. I won't speculate on this one. It's no motive, and family members were even confused on what happened. It's old sayings like blood is thicker than water or family over everything. I guess it all just depends. That love has to go both ways. One-sided loyalty always ends bad. I will leave the moral of the story on this one up to y'all. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Remember to definitely be respectful. Yeah, man, crazy story. Rest in peace to Jeremiah. I send my prayers and condolences to his daughters and his family. Like I said, there's no motive in this situation. I thought it was a crazy story because it just seemed so weird. Like, I don't know if they started beefing. I don't know what transpired. Maybe they was up there trying to make a move. You know, I ain't gonna speculate like I said, but just let me know what y'all think about it in the comments. But it just seemed crazy that 2 cousins and then he went out of town and it happened like that, you know. But yeah, y'all already know I appreciate you if you made it to the end. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. This your boy Tony 2 times. It's all love, fam. I'm out. What's going on, YouTube fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For the day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. When you are a young man or woman trying to navigate life, things can get tricky. Worrying about fitting in or being accepted by the people outside of your household. And I know as young men, once we turn about 14 or 15, we feel like we know a little something if we've been around a few trappers or street dudes. You might even be out the porch doing things yourself, depending on your environment. But when you get older, if you are blessed enough to make it, you look back and think how clowned out and goofy certain moves was you and your peoples might have made. But for some of them decisions as teens, they have an everlasting effect. Some don't make it to mature, and others make a decision that puts them in prison for a long time. Robbery is one of them things you can never plan right. Every situation can go different. For example, you and your peoples come up with an idea to make a move on something or someone. It seems easy enough. A few dollars for 30 seconds to a minute worth of work. Nobody gets hurt, but that's the movies. In real life, things happen. People buck, guns go off, police get called. Now a simple lick turns into life in prison. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will take it all the way back to 2008 and discuss a case of some young men attempt at some easy cash that turned fatal. Back in 2008, former Baltimore City Councilman Kenneth N. Harris Sr. had been through a lot. Raised by a single mother in Park Heights, Ken saw the rough life the streets had to offer at an early age. So the young man put all his energy into school and sports, spending a lot of time at a rec center to get guidance from others in the community. After graduating from Dunbar High School, Ken enrolled in Morgan State University to further his education. Despite being MVP at school and offered to go pro at baseball, he decided his city needed more leaders and took another path. By 1999, Ken had a degree in business administration, worked at a few companies, coached the Northwood Baseball League, even had been president of Leaf Walk Elementary PTA, soon getting elected to be a city councilman for the 4th District in Northeast Baltimore. He went on to do a lot of things for the community before leaving office in 2007. Now at 45 years old, Ken was known by many in the community and considered a leader. He had a close friend named Keith who owned a jazz club and lounge in Northeast Baltimore called The Haven. The former councilman would often visit and chop it up with Keith and enjoy the night. But on September 20th, 2008, things would take a turn for the worse. Keith had closed up for that night and was having a team meeting with his employees. When about 1:15 a.m., Ken pulled up with a female friend in the car, got out to talk to Keith, asked could he use the restroom, and borrow a corkscrew. Little did both men know they were being watched and stalked. 3 young men saw an opportunity. Armed with blicks, masks, and bandanas, they caught Ken and Keith by the door to the lounge. Noticing it was a robbery, Ken attempted to head back to his vehicle. But one of the men followed him while 2 others walked Keith inside the building. Trying to avoid the situation, Ken got in the whip, attempted to pull off, but a shot went off, striking him in the back. As his lady friend told the former councilman to hurry up and drive off. Keith, with a blick to his head, heard the pop, but didn't know what happened. The men quickly rushed him into an office where the safe was at and finished their move before fleeing out the back door of the lounge. Keith grabbed his own blick and shot at the robbers while they was trying to get away, before going out front to see if Ken was good. Once he noticed his car was gone, he felt good his peoples got away. But shortly after, he heard sirens and flashing police lights up the street on Lock Raven Boulevard. Ken had managed to get out the scene, attempted to drive off for help while being shot in the back. He eventually crashed the vehicle and slumped over. He was rushed to a local hospital, but unfortunately would not survive. Police talked to the young lady with him, who said she waited in the car as Ken used the restroom, came back out to talk to Keith, and 3 men quickly approached. One followed Ken to the vehicle. She stated once he got inside, she didn't hear a gunshot, but felt the car shake as he drove off without saying a word, in silence before crashing. Back at the lounge, located in the 1500 block of Havenwood in the Northwood Plaza, police spoke with Keith, who stated him and Ken didn't walk 3 steps from the lounge before armed men came from the cut, aiming a blick at his head. He stated he saw Ken trying to get to the car, but couldn't see what was going on. He also stated one man had a scream mask, the other had bandanas around their faces, and they fled after the fact towards the Hillen neighborhood. As detectives searched the area, they allegedly found bandanas, latex gloves, and Keith's wallet. They also got surveillance video of the incident, but it wasn't cleared. As the tragic story hit the news of what happened to the former councilman, the community was in shock, and the people wanted justice. Keith stated one of the men had the same build as someone who had previously robbed his spot. With the case being so high profile, names started popping up of people in the area that were hot or known for certain activities. As witnesses pointed out 2 suspects from surveillance video and a photo lineup. In November 2008, BPD went and picked up, at the time, 19-year-old Charles McGaney and 20-year-old Gary Collins, charging both men with robbery and first-degree murder. DNA samples were done on the latex gloves and masks found at the scene, but it was a problem. The 2 men's DNA didn't match. Gary slipped up Allegedly on a jail phone call, he mentioned details of the robbery in a third person with the nickname Lil Country. Detectives took the name to an informant, who also was naming Charles and Gary. They stated Lil Country was a 16-year-old young man named Jerome Williams. Jerome was already locked up at a juvenile facility for another armed robbery when he was hit with another one in first-degree murder. The state took his DNA and alleged it was a match for items found on the scene. As the case made its way to trial, prosecutors pointed Gary as the ringleader and Jerome as the shooter or Ken. Witnesses testified, including Keith, the young lady that was with Ken that night, and a security guard from the plaza. The security guard eventually came forward with information. When asked why he waited, he stated he was in fear for his life or retaliation, but he alleged he knew the young men and could point out one of them from the footage from his distinctive bop or walk and having run-ins with him in a shopping center. After 3 weeks of evidence and testimonies, Jerome, at 17 years old, was sentenced to life plus 30 years. Charles also was given life plus 30 years. Gary was acquitted of murder, but convicted of robbery and assault, given 65 years with the possibility of parole after serving half. All three were sent to Patuxent, to the youth offender program to serve their time. Ken's family and community were happy they felt justice was served. Almost 10 years after that night, Ken's legacy was honored when a former Leaf Walk Recreation Center was renamed the Kenneth N. Harris Senior Community Center as a place young people can learn, play, and achieve their goals with the help of their community. Rest in peace to Ken. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to his family. It's crazy he was the only victim, and if he never stopped that night, he might have still been alive. As far as the 3 young men, the youngest was 15 when this happened. It's crazy how a brief moment and a dummy mission will mess your whole life up. I know as long as people are hurting for money, robbery will unfortunately never stop. But before you grab that blick and go on that lick, just remember, you never know how it's going to play out and end up. It might end up with a life sentence or even being you gone. But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, crazy story. Rest in peace to Ken. Like I said, man, I send my deepest prayers and condolences to his family. I ain't gonna talk y'all head off on this one. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Remember to be respectful. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. This your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out.